Welcome to episode 21 of the Harsch Review of Film and TV podcast. My name is Sean, and with me is my brother Ryan. Ryan, what's going on?
Hey everybody, how's it going out there?
All right, I'm excited for this one. It's finally here, Avengers Infinity War. We're going to talk a little bit about this movie. We're going to go into no spoilers, so don't worry. If you haven't seen it, we're not going to spoil anything for you. Then we're going to transition to talk all about the spoilers, so we'll give you enough heads up when that comes around. But I can say for me, this has been a long week. Not only have I been excited to see this movie, but I'm still sick. Yeah, I'm fucking dying over here.
What's going on? It just took a turn or what happened?
I thought I was all in the clear, and then no. So I'm going to try and edit my voice so that I don't sound like a 1940s blues singer. I'll do my best.
You could put it through a Thanos filter.
Yes. Then it'll sound all badass.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Thanos filter. But yeah, it's been a long week. Got to watch a couple movies, had a couple sick days. Before we get into all that kind of noise, I haven't been paying attention to the internet or what's new, but any news stories catch your eye?
Yeah, I got a couple for you. So this is from one of my favorite websites, Screen Rant, which currently it's just full of Avengers stuff. So if you want to wet your whistle and get some Avengers, everything from who spoiled the movie as far as acting goes to Easter eggs, and it's all on the website. But I did wade through there and pick out a couple that I thought were notable. The first one is one of my favorite shows, Arrested Development, will be coming back for a 5th season sometime this summer. There's no definitive date on that, but Henry Winkler, who most of you will probably know as the Fonz, he dropped that little tidbit and said that it's going to be back. They've already shot the thing. It was waiting on Ron Howard's voiceover. I guess he was working on Solo. Voiceover's done, so they just got to edit it and put it together for this summer sometime.
Yeah, what's crazy is there's a generation out there that only knows Henry Winkler as Coach Klein.
Right, Mr. Coach Klein.
Yeah, Coach Klein. Do you want me to tackle like a tackling dummy?
I was with my mom on Coach Klein last night.
Yeah. What part of the snake would you say that we're eating right now? That would be his knee. No? All right. Anyway, sorry. Yeah. So didn't they already do this with the Arrested Development? Like go away, then come back and do another encore or something?
Yeah. So it was kind of like it was originally on Fox. It was 3 seasons. It was canceled, quite a while ago. And then it came back on Netflix for season 4. But the interesting thing about season 4 is it's very, if those of you who've seen it, it's very disjointed. And that's pretty much because of the fact that they couldn't get all the actors together at one time, just like they had on the first 3 seasons. So, there's a lot of stuff in the 4th season that's like, here's this guy's story and here's this person's story. But you never really get the characters together at one time. And it's really that kind of ensemble, group activity that makes the show kind of endearing. So this season will pretty much bring everybody together. It focuses on a murder mystery revolving around the disappearance of Lucille Ostero, who is Buster's woman. So
gotcha. Yes.
We'll see what happens. But it looks pretty good. It has the same writers and everything, the same actors, obviously. Of course, like the regular show, there'll always be some like cameos and things like that. So
sounds like they're really milking the fan base out of it. I mean, I'm sure there's an audience for it, but
sure,
at some point in time, it's just also kind of nice when series and shows are done. It's not like, hey, guess what? Breaking Bad season 7 or 6 are coming out.
Right?
It's just like, move on.
Yeah, when you have a definitive end, it's. I don't really pay attention to sitcoms that much, so I'm more into shows like this where there's, not a laugh track, and you have to really rely on the kind of the talent that's there and not so much just the writing.
Gotcha.
So, that's why I like shows like this, but I do agree with you. I think at some point you need to just kind of drop the hammer and say, hey, it's, we're done here.
Stick a fork in it. Call it a meal.
Yeah, so
all right.
That's coming up, and then same website, I found something about one of my favorite comic books. This is The Watchmen, and pretty decent movie, I thought, when it came out. I recently rewatched it, and I really liked it. But this will be a series on HBO. And it's pretty much helmed by Damon Lindelof. Where do you know that name from,
He's
Sean?
from Lost. He did Lost,
Right.
Westworld, I think.
Lost and The Leftovers.
Leftovers, that's
yeah,
right.
I think he does have a hand in Westworld, but there's not really saying too much about it. They're just kind of putting out casting calls, so we're not really sure, like if it's straight up like from the movie or it stays more true to the graphic novel. We're not really sure, but this is kind of cool. I mean, I like Lindelof and the stuff he does. Pretty weird. I mean, Lost when it got weird, you could definitely tell that he probably had a hand in that. And The Leftovers, weird freaking show, but still a good show.
Yeah, it's well made. Definitely creative. Doesn't have the same kind of resolution. Lots of unopened things. I mean, a lot of things that he's been involved in, it's kind of like really good premises, but you really don't know how. You're a good starter, but not a good closer. That's kind of what a lot of people say about Abrams is, he can start stuff, but he hasn't really closed out strong.
Right.
Curious to see how it goes.
With Lindelof, he does have, and he does this through Lost too, like a lot of literary references and obscure kind of references to things in pop culture. So, with Watchmen, it's set in a pretty definitive time period. So it'll be interesting to see the direction he takes with this. Of course, Alan Moore, who wrote the book originally, he's gonna come out and probably say he hates it, like he does with every other adaptation of everything he's done. But saying he did V for Vendetta, he did From Hell. He said those are terrible adaptations. So
yeah,
not really.
Watchmen was a cool movie.
Yeah,
it was ahead of its time.
Yeah, and the comic book was ahead of its time too. I mean, it was one of the first kind of graphic novels that took a darker turn, a little more adult turn with a lot of the subject matter. So excited,
it's pretty serious.
Excited to see that it's going to have a new life on HBO.
Killer.
Yeah.
See how that's coming along. I know that's funny you mentioned something, sci-fi-esque with Watchmen or comic books, because the only thing that caught my eye I was reading was that sci-fi and fantasy genres are dominating Netflix, which has been a huge source of people's entertainment, and so much so that the company's kind of starting to double down, and they're going to be focusing very heavily on the sci-fi and fantasy, and focusing heavily on movies, which it's nice to hear that they're kind of starting to pick a lane a little bit. But I also really like the documentaries, and I like the murder thrillers and all those kinds of things. So I'm just hoping that other areas don't get pushed out, because I mean, as far as my opinion goes, 1 out of every 5 sci-fi TV series or shows are actually really good, and fantasy is even more hit and miss with me. When it's on, but if you're really going for high quantity, you could probably oversaturate it rather quickly. So.
And I think, like Game of Thrones has kind of set the bar for fantasy, much as like The Sopranos set the bar for the gangster film, where it's really going to be hard to top it after it's all said and done,
Yeah, Game of Thrones brought a lot of originality to the genre, because it doesn't really have like a period that it's set within. It doesn't really establish like the planet or that kind of stuff. Like, this is a long time ago or anything. It also doesn't fall into the old Tolkien kind of goblins and orcs and wizards and the dwarves. Like, I'm totally over all that stereotypical stuff that you kind of find from Lord of the Rings. I mean, it's everywhere.
Dwarves and orcs,
the elves and the night elves, and there's the human race, and there's giants.
They all come together. Yeah,
all the same shit. Everybody keeps redoing and just telling different stories. I mean, I would be really interested in like a crime drama, but that's set in some like fantasy world, or just take like a normal script, but have it take place in that world without these huge overarching character journeys.
Tyrion Lannister, Private Eye.
Yeah, that'd be badass, and that's all it was. Yeah. It doesn't have to explain anything.
Like, hungover half the time, trying to solve crimes.
Oh yeah, take the movie The Hangover and film it in like some other planet in 300 years in the future, and just keep it like that.
Yeah.
Maybe like a movie like what I liked about Mute. I know we talked about that one several episodes ago, but it didn't explain its future. It didn't. It just, that's where it took place. And I think that's awesome. And there needs to be more things like that. So I think you can do more fantasy. You can do more sci-fi if you quit trying to do franchise building and just tell your story. You don't need to introduce and create all this new stuff over and over and over.
Yeah, I mean, because it seems like a lot of work, and then if it fails, like if it doesn't come out that good, it's kind of like a waste.
Well, yeah, because Game of Thrones wouldn't be what it was if a guy didn't spend that long. If Martin didn't spend that long writing all these books and building that world. I mean, same thing like with Harry Potter and stuff. Those came from
probably.
Yeah, those types of franchises were designed and built off of the foundation of books, which is a much longer development cycle.
Right.
I haven't really I mean, we're about to talk about Marvel, and that's from decades of comic book stories. What movie franchises really, built something that's strong, that's strictly been just screenplays and movies? I mean, I don't know. I'm drawing a blank here, but most of the great writing stuff comes from books.
Yeah.
Most. But anyway, most, not everything.
Yeah, but
I'm a little hopped up on NyQuil, so I'm probably spacing on something, but
saying the same thing.
Indiana Jones, there we go.
All right, hey.
Star
James
Wars.
Bond.
Star Wars started there. Okay,
James Bond.
That was books.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, I know what you mean. Just
not books. Yeah.
Okay.
RoboCop.
RoboCop.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rambo. All right, so
Harsch review NyQuil edition.
I know this is a lot of fun. We should probably do this more often.
Yeah.
Is it just me, or is the computer spinning right now?
Right. Counterclockwise.
All right, so now we got all the fun news stories out of the way that caught the Harsch brothers' eyes. Why don't you what do you watch? Anything new? Any new movies? I know I watched a couple. What about you?
Yeah, well, I've been catching up on the Avengers stuff, which I'll get to when we get there. But I also
got a long ways to go.
Hey, I did see 2 films that I pretty much enjoyed for the most part. One was Den of Thieves is the first one. This is with Gerald Butler and the son of Ice Cube, whose name escapes me right now. But
yeah, I saw that on iTunes and I kind of stayed away. I was like, that looks terrible.
Yeah, I mean, it's good.
I wasn't, dude.
It's good for a heist movie, but I'll just kind of spoil it right now. There's some highly improbable shit in this thing. Like,
no.
First of all, like they're gonna rob the Federal Reserve building in Los Angeles, and as you can probably imagine, like that's where the bank for the banks, So
yeah,
the whole premise of the heist, which is very carefully planned, is the Ice Cube character poses as a Chinese food delivery person. And they just let this motherfucker like check into the front desk and like walk the food back to the cafeteria for some people. So right there, I was like, okay, that would never happen. But, like Federal Reserve, especially, like anywhere else, yes, but at a place like this, like he would just have to check in the food, then they have to call the person up, and then they probably search the food or whatever. But so that kind of threw me off. Everybody in this movie's a dick. Pretty much, like for the most part.
All right, I'm on board.
So it's like Gerald Butler is a total like asshole, drinker, plays around on his wife, shitty father, you name it. So it was okay, but my attention wandered quite a bit. Sometimes it felt a little bit like it was ripping off the movie Heat, which is one of my favorite cop movies. Especially there's a scene where they're like eating dinner in the same place, and they kind of cut back and forth. Like, oh, these are how these guys are the same, the cops and the robbers. So, I mean, it was enjoyable, but it's fairly derivative.
It's a popcorn movie, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I'm glad I didn't see it in the theater or anything.
Redbox, right?
Definitely Redbox. It's like it's like $1, so you're like, that's $1 I'll never see again.
Yeah, but what's your time worth, right?
It's like it's a 2-hour, 20-minute movie, and I was like, let's do the uncut edition, and I'm like 2 hours and 20 minutes. So
it reminds me of like London Has Fallen. It's another one that he did, where he's kind of how like William Neeson went from Qui-Gon Jinn to America's badass.
William Neeson.
Yeah, what's his name? Liam
Neeson.
There you go.
William, his lesser known brother, William.
That's what his mom calls him.
Okay.
No, Liam Neeson. You know how you went from Qui-Gon Jinn to like America's badass. I'll solve any crime and problem on a moving vehicle kind of thing.
Yes.
He's been cranking those kinds of movies out. So Gerald Butler's starting to do those when he did
Gerard Butler.
Yeah, Gerard Butler.
Gerald Butler and William Neeson.
It's like you find those Bollywood movies where it's got like those rip-off actors on the cover.
Right.
Yeah.
My favorite one was it was like a remake of Enter the Dragon, and it's Bruce Lee with like one E.
There you go.
A guy that obviously looks nothing like Bruce Lee, but it's like Bruce Lee.
Bruce Lee. Yeah. Anyway, London Has Fallen was something I saw on HBO, and very same type of movie. So when I saw this one, I was like, oh yeah, it's like probably like that. So,
yeah.
But Den of Thieves, you recommend it?
If I'd recommend it if like you have some work to do, like for study for a test or do flashcards for a class, and you just want to have something on in the background.
All right.
It's like something you could do other shit while it's on. You don't really have to be
watch
doing
my
much.
movie while you're doing something else.
Right.
All right. What else did you watch?
I watched the movie Hostiles with Christian Bale.
Oh yeah.
Jesse Plemons is in it. Who's I like him better than Matt Damon. Actually, he looks like Matt Damon.
The poor man's Matt Damon.
He's like a bloated Matt Damon.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really like this movie. I thought it was really, really well done. As far as being like a period piece, basically it's turn of the century. Native Americans, and Bale plays this like colonel who's given this task that he doesn't want to do. He's pretty well like known for wiping out like whole tribes of Indians and stuff, and quote unquote civilizing them. So the movie looks at that, and for the first like 5 minutes, I'm not going to spoil it, but it's pretty crazy. It's pretty brutal. Doesn't flinch away from what really kind of happened.
It's a great movie. It starts off really strong, sets the tone early, and it's a different type of Western.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a 310 to Yuma, but toned down quite a bit.
Right.
But yeah, when I liked it. I thought it was really good.
Yeah.
It's also got I don't even want to try and say his name. The dude from Last of the Mohicans that does the little finger thing. Like, come here,
Wes Studi.
Yes, he's great.
Yeah. And the guy with the beard, his name's Rory Cochrane. I think he was in Train Spotting. He was good too. I mean, that character like showed like the PTSD that exists, that time. And, he was like kind of like Bale's right-hand man in the movie. He was great too. I just thought it was kind of reminded me, and like kind of the tone of it kind of like reminded me of The Proposition, just kind of showing, even though The Proposition, it was set in a different location, it just kind of reminds me of that. Just, the landscape just kind of eats you up, and
sure.
You really start questioning your mission and your purpose. And that's kind of what this movie, where it took you. Bale did a great job. I think he had like a pretty understated performance. A lot of characters in the film had the same mustache, which I really thought was kind of cool. That Sam Elliott mustache.
Yeah, it's kind of mustache when you take like a drink from your mug and it's just full of flavor for hours.
Right.
Yeah,
that's why that kind of mustache is known as a flavor saver.
It's the diabetes mustache.
Right, Wilford Brimley.
Yeah, diabetes.
He got that diabetes.
Yeah, Rosamund Pike. She was awesome.
Yeah, she was.
She was definitely a big trauma victim throughout this thing. I thought she played it very well. There's some other characters that pop up that I won't mention, but I think that it's got some surprises as it goes along. Mm-hmm. It's a nice, slow-paced Western that's a little bit more of a character study, and has some moments of action, but it's not much of a gunslinger kind of movie. Yeah. So if you're wanting like a fast action Tombstone type of thing, this is not it. It's a great story that doesn't get told enough, and gives you some insight into just 1890. I think that's when it took place. 1892, somewhere right around there.
Great title too, because it's pretty much like a double meaning,
Yeah,
because it's the Native Americans aren't portrayed as like the nicest people either, but it's like the people who are fulfilling manifest destiny are really pretty much the real hostiles here. So
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, I definitely recommend it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Did you
also
see
took
anything
your
else?
yeah. Other than Hostels, so went from one extreme. I did take up and saw the Phantom Thread.
Okay.
Almost said the Phantom Menace.
Might as well be.
Yeah.
They're both shitty movies.
Yeah, here, I'll give you my review of the Phantom Thread.
Okay.
There, that's
Meh. M-E-H.
You know, it's like a little shoulder shrug, like,
Right.
You know, it was beautifully shot.
It's no William Neeson, but hey.
Yeah. It's what was that? Phil Timothy Adams, the director. You know,
Phil Timothy.
I thought it was beautifully shot.
Yeah.
Great camera work. Underwhelming soundtrack, although it worked. There wasn't much variety to it, so it's kind of like you're just floating around in this little dream. Like the movie's got an interesting pace to it.
Right.
I mean, Daniel Day-Lewis plays a prick, which is he does a good job with his character. Definitely not like Oscar worthy, but nomination is even kind of gray for me. I really didn't feel like it was that strong.
And it's like his last movie. It's like, really, dude?
Yeah, I just
come on.
It's one of those movies where you kind of watch it and go, all right, well, what's the point? Like, why?
Right.
What are you trying to tell me? Because I either missed it, it was an interesting insight into this character study between these two and the dynamics of a relationship. But it just was very unbelievable to me because he's kind of has this aura or this power over the women that's around him that they just love him, even though he's like, you know, intolerable prick to be around. And then how they kind of use that leverage or power to kind of start trying to influence him because he's very particular about everything. And
he's like the anal retentive, like he has these breakdowns.
Yeah, he needs like you to hold him. And it's just it was interesting. It kept me interested the whole time. And it was very high attention to detail. I mean, the whole thing almost takes place indoors.
Right.
Only like 2, maybe 3 sets, so it had very much of a feeling like a play.
Okay.
Yeah, but I just kind of walk away from it going like, well, I can see why somebody would enjoy making the movie, but it wasn't as fun to watch.
Yeah.
So, not one of the strongest from PTA, but it's okay.
Unfortunate.
I honestly think the best part about it is the camera work.
Yeah.
That's really pretty cool to watch. And even though the soundtrack is kind of underwhelming in some respects, it is interesting how they did music in this one because the music kind of just flows from scene to scene. It's not really structured and edited like most traditional movies to where you kind of understand passage of time. So
yeah, it's kind of hypnotic.
It is, which is interesting to me. So I liked a lot of those elements. If you don't really care about the characters that you're watching and you don't really understand their motives, which they kind of went into a little bit,
right.
And then it's really hard to kind of have empathy for anybody. So
yeah, I didn't feel too bad
been better.
About anybody. Hey, Harsch Review wants to issue an amendment to an earlier statement. Rory Cochrane was not in Trainspotting. He played the head stoner in Dazed and Confused.
Oh, that's right.
That's my mistake. So,
statement overruled.
Yeah, we're not going to edit that, but I just admit we made a mistake and move on.
I could have saved the day in editing, but whatever.
I didn't say William Neeson or anything like that.
I'll clean.
Gerald Butler and William Neeson.
Yeah, I'll clean all that up. Don't worry.
No, you won't. How dare you?
Yeah.
Okay, Phantom Thread. So
what are we talking about? Who?
Yeah.
Phantom Thread. We're done.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else that you watched, or are we moving on?
Let's move on.
Let's do it. All right. Let me take another shot here. Of not Jaeger, but NyQuil. Hold on.
Sick man's Jaeger.
Yeah. Woo. Okay. The deer medicine. So we're going to talk about Avengers Infinity War. Ryan and I both saw this today, different states, different cities, different times. We're not going to spoil anything for a while. And then we'll give you a good heads up when we kind of transition into spoiler territory. We're going to talk a lot more about the plot, specific things, what we thought about certain things. So don't worry. Just if you haven't seen it, continue to listen. We're not going to give you anything away. We'll give you a heads up, and then you can hit pause, and then you can come back later after you've seen it and listen to the rest, because I know you love to listen to this show. So, Ryan, before we start talking about Avengers, why don't you kind of catch me up on where you're at with your Avengers history, the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Have you seen all the 18 movies yet, or are you still working on it?
Well, just a little backing up a little bit. I never really felt like too strongly about the Avengers for like a long time. I was just like, it's okay. But after a while, excuse me. All right. After a while, now I'm watching all these movies and kind of doing my homework and catching up. I like really, really dig it. I've kind of had some kind of change within me that's allowed me to like open up to this whole Marvel universe. And I love it. I just think it's I just love how everything kind of intersects. All the characters kind of play off each other. It's not only like good, obviously like visual effects and everything you see, but the writing is good, and just kind of how they use the characters as to where they're not, especially in the ensemble films, where they're not like dominating each other. But then you get other movies too, like Spider-Man, where Iron Man shows up. I think that's really cool.
It's like you're going through a cinematic puberty or something.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's I love it. And I can't wait to see more. Like currently, I've just been kind of binge watching everything having to do with Marvel. So obviously rewatched Avengers 1 and 2, all the Captain Americas, First Avenger, Winter Soldier, Civil War. Just watched Spider-Man: Homecoming. Still did Doctor Strange not too long ago. Still want to see Guardians of the Galaxy 2 and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. show, and catch up. I did see all the Iron Mans. I'd like to see all those again too.
Okay. So you're right in the pocket. So when you went into this movie, you're pretty prepared, right?
Oh yeah. I felt, my thing on the Avengers is like, I understand what's going on, but I could not explain it to someone else,
Sure.
So I mean, I pretty much, I know what's up. In my head, I have it down pretty, kind of like Game of Thrones. Except in this case, I know everybody's name. Whereas in Game of Thrones, it's like, oh, that guy with the beard, So it just kind of depends on where it's at. But I really couldn't explain it to you unless I had some note cards or something like that. But going into Infinity War, pretty much caught up on everything. Would have liked to read the comics, because I'm pretty big on comics too, but I will be getting to those eventually.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so before we kind of dive into a little bit about our first impressions with Avengers Infinity War, I want to take a couple minutes to kind of get everybody caught up. If you have or have not seen all these movies heading up into it, and is it necessary or not? I think it definitely, what you're really seeing is kind of one of a kind as far as movie making goes, to where 10 years of movies have all led up to this point. And they've done an excellent job, Disney and Marvel, of kind of weaving together all these stories through all these different characters and stuff to tell this kind of story, which is coming close to some type of closure after Avengers 4 next year. But really, if we were to go through those movies, you're looking at starting with Captain America, who was the first Avenger. That was the movie that came out in 2011. Kind of starts establishing lots of things in the universe, from Hydra to Tony Stark's dad, and all kinds of stuff along those lines. And what's interesting is that the MCU went through this interesting timeline where certain things were part of it, certain things were not, or they didn't follow them as closely. The next thing like that would kind of come along from like a timeline point of view would be like the Incredible Hulk with Ed Norton. That was a 2008 movie, as well as Iron Man, which is a 2008 movie, which truly kind of started this momentum, because Captain America didn't come out until afterwards, but in timeline-wise, it happens first. So you got to kind of pay attention to the timeline, because all these movies don't follow it exclusively. You're also seeing Iron Man 2. You're looking at Thor coming around, and then we get Avengers in 2012, which really is the first of these 4 Avenger movies that you're seeing. Iron Man 3 eventually came out in 2013. We saw Thor: The Dark World, which is a little bit of it was told some decent story, but wasn't that great.
Yeah.
Captain America: Winter Soldier 2014 comes around. Timeline continues trucking on. Then we kind of take a brief pause over to Guardians of the Galaxy for Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2. Timeline takes back to Avengers: Age of Ultron 2015. So that's the tricky part, is you watch like Guardians 1 and 2, but in reality, those events happened prior to like Age of Ultron, which came out in 2015, although Guardians 2 came out in 2017. So it can get difficult to follow the actual linear timeline of these movies. Ant-Man came out in 2015, which was a lot of fun. Captain America: Civil War came out in 2016. Black Panther 2018, and then you're going into a little bit of another tangent with Spider-Man: Homecoming, Doctor Strange, Thor: Ragnarok, which is kind of important. So the main theme that runs through all of these are these Infinity Stones. So if you don't really know what these are, it's hard to understand the motivation of what's going on.
Are they like the Shankara stones?
Yeah, no. You go to Bangkok Palace.
Bangkok Palace.
Yeah. No, there's 6 of these stones, and they're kind of all spread out throughout the galaxy. You have to be incredibly powerful to wield one. And if you have all of them, you can control the fate of the galaxy with a snap of your fingers. Or it's something that gives you ultimate power, but you have to, not anybody can have them. So if you've seen, you see, like, for example, in Doctor Strange, the Time Stones, the green gem that he's got, and Guardians of the Galaxy, they've got they give the Reality Stone, I believe, that they have over there. The Nova Corps has the Power Stone. That's the one that the Guardians recovered. Thanos or Loki, they've got the Space Stone, which is that one that's in that blue Tesseract, which was in the very first Captain America. That kind of came along. It's inside that cube. And we saw in the last one that Vision, he's the Paul Bettany. He's got the Mind Stone, the yellow one, right on his head. That came out of Loki's scepter. And so then there's the Soul Stone, which is the one that hasn't been identified, which is still missing prior to this movie. So the stones are all around, and their fate is all kind of coming together, heading into this movie when it finally sets up Thanos as the big bad guy. So, with all that being said,
nice.
when you went in and saw this movie, what were your first impressions? Did you enjoy it? What did you think, without spoiling anything? So be careful.
Yeah, I really liked it. I didn't see it like in 3D or anything. My thing on 3D lately is just it's kind of distracting, and I wear prescription glasses anyway, so the 3D glasses don't really fit on those. So half the movie I'm like kind of squinting just to kind of see clearly. So I saw this in regular theater. And I loved it. I thought it was great from start to finish. I mean, there were a couple down points to me that we might talk about later, but I was blown away by it.
Yeah, it's great pacing. For longest movie in the MCU, it's just almost like 2 hours and 40 something minutes.
But I wasn't like checking my watch, going, "Come on, like when's this?"
Yeah, it's definitely keeps it
thoroughly engaged the whole time.
What I appreciate about it, and this is something exciting for you if you haven't seen it, is from a filmmaking standpoint, they took a different approach to this one. I don't know if it's just the subject matter or the importance of the events in this movie, but it didn't feel like other MCU movies. It had a different tone. It was shot a little bit differently, different segues, ways that they identify different locations and kind of help carry you along. It had a lot of unique elements to it, which I kind of liked. It started to feel a little bit more like that contrast between The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, where it's in the same universe, but you can tell there's somebody else driving the car. It kind of felt like that a little bit to me. Because there's been some period of time that passed since the last one. It's been a little while where, at the Civil War, Captain America Civil War, Steve Rogers and Tony Stark go their different ways. They're clearly not happy. And there's a lot of events where you're kind of curious, like, what's going to happen? And so when you head into this movie, there's a lot of questions people want answered. And it answers quite a bit while creating new ones and not addressing other ones. What did you? I mean, how did you think they handled the quantity of actors and screen time for everybody?
I thought it was really good. They kind of took a Star Wars Return of the Jedi approach, where you're not going to see everybody at one time, but it goes kind of back and forth. So it, kind of split everybody up into, I think, maybe 3 groups or 4 groups. And it, kind of equally went back and forth while drawing out the suspense clearly. So, because, I mean, frankly, it's going to be kind of overwhelming to anybody to see, all those guys on screen at one time doing their thing. So I think the way they handled it, and then they brought other guys in, and then kind of brought 2 of the groups together, and maybe left them, apart. I think that was, that was well done. The way it was kind of paced back and forth was definitely engaging to where, you're like, okay, we'll cut away from this, but you're going to get back to it and see what happens. So I think they did a great job in the writing there.
Yeah, same type of formula like Civil War, where you have different characters are all different locations, and as the plot comes along, you start to see their paths collide. And so any movie that it doesn't start off with, all 18 or however many Avengers all on the screen together going, all right, what's next? Like, there's a lot of multiple stories and different lines to be told.
Right.
And that's tricky to kind of weave that together and make it effective. And I thought they did pretty good at keeping you interested without it feeling like, for example, I know I mentioned when we were talking about The Last Jedi, where there were certain scenes I wish they let play out longer, but they're jumping between, the Luke and the Rey story and Finn and or Poe and all this, and they're jumping around at a pace so it's kind of like, all right, slow down a little bit. You're losing some momentum. I never really felt like this movie kind of had that.
Yeah.
Now, granted, I was like totally high on NyQuil when I'm watching this movie earlier in the theater, so that was interesting.
That's the perfect drug for this movie.
Oh, yeah. You don't want to get loaded and go watch some Avengers. Those guitars that are like double guitars?
Poor man's mescaline.
Yeah. No. Sure. I mean, going to the movies being sick is the worst, especially when you're there and all these, like, the sound, everyone's just munching on popcorn and slurping their sodas and all these
get
kids
them sick.
And oh my gosh.
Get them sick.
I didn't want to bail. I was like, I got to do it. Got to do it.
Well, I got to tell you a little something about, if you don't mind, like a quick sidebar.
By all means.
This made the New York Times, and this happened at the theater that I went to see the movie at on Thursday night when the film opened. So apparently at the end of the film, police got a call that a man in the theater jumped out of his seat and started jumping up and down, waving his arms. He was preaching and making odd statements about God, telling everybody they had to repent for their sins. And so this created what you can only call mass hysteria. Apparently,
someone, you don't know if he's got a gun or something, right?
Right. Like this guy, came out and I guess someone fainted and someone else started going to a panic attack. One woman jumped over a railing, landed 20 feet below, and then she was trampled by a bunch of people running out of the theater. Had to, take her out to the hospital. People thought
people.
Yeah, right. So it's like society's worst here. It's like people not helping each other out, and somebody falls and has to get to the hospital. People were saying that he had a gun, and then someone called and said that shots had been fired, which was not true. No shots had been fired, but they detained this guy. He was a 28-year-old. He said he was not under the influence of anything. He said. And he told them, and this is the best part, that he does this all the time. Like, apparently, at the end of movies, he gets up and starts preaching about God and holding his hands and waving his hands around to create some kind of effect. So,
did he get arrested for, like, public disturbance or something?
Yeah, he got arrested on suspicion of offensive language likely to cause a violent reaction.
Jeez, way to go, Jesus.
Yeah. So, organized religion 0, Avengers 1, right? So,
that's a bummer.
Yeah, and it's just like if I was there, it would have been a different story. But
wait, what do you knock him out?
I would have gone all William Neeson on him and done something to him.
Yeah,
yeah. But I just thought that was an interesting kind of reaction to this thing because people are a little wary about going to the movies, especially in the last couple of years. But that would have ruined my night.
That would have definitely, that's a buzzkill. I mean, the biggest buzzkill I think I had was some dude just vomiting countless gallons of alcohol 3 seats away from me while I'm watching Batman however many years ago. That was gross. That's like the worst I've had is just people vomiting in theaters. That's happened a couple times.
We had a movie theater in college, and these 2 guys came in, and they were like these Russian exchange students, and they had a gigantic bottle of vodka. And about 10 minutes into the movie, they dropped it, and it exploded everywhere. And the entire movie, we had to sit there and smell like raw vodka. It was disgusting.
Yeah, I remember this one time. I can't remember what the movie was. Maybe like Fight Club or something. It was a while ago.
Right.
Somebody in the very, very top row dropped their bottle. They're clearly drinking, and it rolled from the very back all the way to the front. And it wasn't too packed, but it's just like you hear it roll and it goes ding, 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 and it's like slowly working its way down. I was like, oh, son of a bitch! Somebody just picked that thing up. Yeah. Made it all the way down, but yeah, that's why I love going to the movies, but I don't. Because of people and
right. Sorry,
I know. I'm actually starting to be more fond of those 21 and older, smaller theaters with the big lazy boys, and you're going to pay a little bit more money, but everyone's a little more respectful at that price point. It's just a little bit different, but I will have to say about this one is that everyone was in a great mood when I saw it. Everyone was laughing. I saw it at 12 o'clock.
Some great jokes.
It's a pretty funny movie. Surprisingly, it's really
funny. Chris Pratt was hilarious.
He's got like true comedic talent. Where I think Tony Stark is a funny character, but he's just got the witty cleverness of his lines. But he doesn't have a comic delivery per se.
Right.
And it kind of applies to everybody here because not everybody going into this one has really like comedic backgrounds. But it really shows with Chris Pratt. So his character kind of brought all the Guardians. They brought a nice comic relief to the movie where it wasn't there. What did you think of Thanos as far as being like a CGI villain and just how he looked and Josh Brolin's performance?
I thought it was great. I mean, the first time I saw it in the preview, I thought it was Hellboy.
I can see the similarities.
Yeah, with that that prominent chin and everything. But no, I thought it was really good. Definitely like a really, really bad guy. And Josh Brolin, like you could, I knew it was him. You could tell it was his voice after a while.
Kind of looked like him too.
Yeah. Come a long way since the Goonies, that's for sure.
Yeah, I know. So, okay, the reason why I'm asking that is because you remember Justice League? You saw that one?
Yeah.
So you remember the bad dude in Justice League? What the hell's his name?
Syrian Hines?
No. That'd be kind
Gerald Butler?
No, not Jerry Butler.
Here we go. Sean's gonna butcher another name again in 3.
Yeah, no. It's the
you're on your own, buddy.
He was all CGI. I'm spaced. Steppenwolf. Come on, there we go. Steppenwolf.
Yeah.
Yes. What'd you say, Mr. Hines?
Syrian Hines.
So Steppenwolf is like
great band.
Yeah, that's pushing it.
Magic carpet ride.
Yeah, maybe for Tar Hero days. So my point is I did not like the CGI-ness of Steppenwolf in DC, but then you see it here, and it's like, okay, that's done right.
Oh,
and it's totally. Such a difference. So
I mean, it's like and the CGI in general in this movie was wonderful. I mean, you need to, if you're going to have with the Steppenwolf character, you just felt kind of detached. Who gives a shit about this guy? With Thanos, it's like you really feel it. His presence, and it's like this guy is. I mean, he's a Titan, literally, and that's what he is.
Yeah, and the there was one scene that the CGI was a really bummer, but I'll mention that later.
Okay.
But I really liked how Josh Brolin was portrayed. His job actually seeing Thanos longer than, I mean, he had maybe a collective of 4 minutes of screen time sprinkled across the movies up until now. So that was nice to finally kind of get to know this character if you don't have any backstory with Thanos previously. So that's kind of nice to bring a new villain in. From a music standpoint, I think that's probably what I would say is probably one of the weaker points of this movie.
Yeah.
I didn't really feel like the music, other than a couple key moments, really played a strong effect. A little bit vanilla for me. A lot going on. So I just, when you have like Captain America and he's got his theme that kicks in, or the last other Avengers movies, they got their Avengers theme and they've got things that they kind of bring in. While all those elements are still present in this movie, they don't really have that same kind of impact, I think.
Yeah.
It just didn't feel like it had its own identity. And that would probably be my main criticism.
It's just like rehashing the themes, you know?
Well, you know, like where Indiana Jones does something badass and all of a sudden, dun, 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 here comes everything and you're all pumped up, you stand
Darth
up
Vader,
and cheer. Yeah, you know, it didn't have those kind of elements to it when they had a lot of those in previous MCU movies.
Right.
But my main criticism is that with this many cooks in the kitchen, there's so many superheroes and stuff that comes together. While I thought they did an excellent job in how they handled or approached it, it is hard for that movie to establish an identity in some respects. So you're kind of more, the identity is more about the story in this one. You don't really get enough to glue to one individual. So for example, Iron Man has maybe been a little oversaturated in a lot of the movies with his role.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I liked about Black Panther is there was no interruptions from other, here's Iron Man to help out. Or here's you know what I mean? It was its own thing.
Look who came along to lend a helping hand.
Yeah, this movie's on the exact opposite spectrum. So you get all the people you want to see. But
and there's even
no
a good joke.
there.
I mean, the Black Panther like kind of universes, that's about as hardcore as you get. I mean, aside from the other Avengers, there's even like a great joke in here about how kind of lazy one of the Avengers is.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about, but
I do.
Yeah, that's it's good to see that too. That's I think that kind of brought me into the fold was that Black Panther movie.
Yeah, speaking of funny jokes, didn't mention the trailers that we saw heading into this, but I did watch in the Deadpool trailer that they played.
Oh yeah,
there was that funny one because Josh Brolin's in that one as the bad guy for Cable. And he says something to Deadpool like, I don't know, all dark and something. And Deadpool's response is just like, "Oh, that's dark. What is this, a DC movie?" You know, or something like that. I thought it was kind of funny.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think to kind of sum up my initial impressions and just feelings on it is, did it meet my expectations? I would say yes, in most parts. A couple areas I would say no. Is it a good movie? I think it is. It's a really good movie. It's probably one of the best out of all the ones here. And I would say that that's just simply because while a good 2/3 of the movie is like there's a lot of humor and there's a lot going on. They did a good job of kind of balancing and editing it. So while it does move fast, it doesn't feel like you're watching a 3-hour movie.
No,
the subject, like the stakes are much higher in this one compared to a little independent venture like you might find in one of the Iron Man movies or the Spider-Man or Thor. Any of those individual movies, there's not as much weight to what's going on. It's a little trivial compared to the galaxy, the universe that's at stake. So I thought that overall kind of was exactly what I thought I was going to get. I wish I got certain things different. Doesn't mean it's bad. I'm kind of surprised that it went in a lot of different directions than I thought it would, which is a good thing. It's good to be surprised. So I definitely appreciate that. What about you?
Yeah. I mean, I thought overall, I did like it. I mean, as far as it being a long movie, I couldn't really tell, you know, thought it gave equal weight to everything. So that was kind of nice. Nice to see Spider-Man, especially. I haven't seen the new movie recently. I really like this Spider-Man. I think it's a good incarnation of that. So, but overall, a couple characters I would have liked to see, but we'll talk about that in the next half.
All right. Yeah. Cool. All right, folks, there you have it. That's we did our best to kind of talk about Avengers without spoiling anything. So if you have not seen the movie, now is your time to pull the ejection cord and get out of the plane. We are going to start talking more about spoilers, some of the specific plot points, specific actors, things that we didn't like, without any regard to giving anything away, as plus what end credit scenes, where's it going, what are we looking forward to, and stuff like that. So let's take a quick little break, and when we come back, we'll get to it. Right, we are back, and now we're going to be talking about Avengers Infinity War and all the spoilers possible. So, like we mentioned before, if you haven't seen it, hit pause now. If you can't find your iPod and you're freaking out, take your earbuds out, do whatever you can, because we're eject. We're going all into it. All right, so I'll kick this off. Right. I'm going to kind of loosely go through the plot, and we'll use that to kind of refresh some of the talking points and all those kinds of things. But let's just kind of start with the opening scene, which kind of picks up right at the end of Thor Ragnarok, where we kind of see Loki, Thor, and the Hulk. So they're having this thing with Thanos and his generals, or whatever you want to call it. Which, by the way, I thought those guys were pretty awesome. So new guys kind of coming there, but Thanos is there. I guess they're his children or whatever. I don't know who those people are.
Yeah,
they kind of do his dirty work for it. Yeah. When I was reading on it, there's his different children was with Cole, Obsidian, Ebony Maw, Proxima Midnight, and Corvus Glaive.
Right.
They're the folks there. But Thor, Loki, Heimdall, and Hulk are all there, trying to prevent them from getting that space stone from the Tesseract. So Thor's kind of held imprisoned, and Hulk and Thanos have it out. And this is kind of an important scene because Thanos just tunes up the Hulk.
Well, it's also an important scene because you don't see Hulk again.
Yeah. This is the only time you see
that was my disappointment that I didn't want to allude to earlier.
Yeah, good point.
Mark Ruffalo is kind of a whiny bitch in this movie, and I don't know he has like Hulk dysfunction or Hulk ED or something.
It's like Hulk impetitis or something.
Yeah. I mean, for those of you going into this movie, there's like a shot I saw like in a magazine where they're all running through the forest and the Hulk's there. I'm like, that's doctored, because you don't see that motherfucker again.
Yeah, no more Hulk, folks. You get him for maybe 5 minutes, and that's it.
Something happened to him. I don't know.
Well, I think this is the first time that Hulk's match has been met, and he got beat down by Thanos, and kind of realized that, oh yeah, I'm not unstoppable. So the plus side is you get a lot more Bruce Banner, which the movies have kind of struggled to really work him in. He's one of my favorites. Hulk is one of my favorite characters, and there's always been a nice balance of like Hulk and Bruce Banner when you watch some of the standalone Hulk movies. But as far as the modern Marvel stuff, they haven't done a good job with that. And I would agree that most of the time you don't really get to see Bruce Banner have any kind of swagger. He's always just kind of like anxiety ridden, just kind of a mess. And unfortunately, in this entire movie, understandably, he cannot turn into the Hulk again. They do a weird thing with the way that they do it. Because like in Thor Ragnarok, where he's Hulk the entire movie, and he still's like having conversations and talking, which was a little weird. But and this one, it's like Hulk, he's trying to become the Hulk, and then like the Hulk is semi appearing in his face and goes no, it goes back to just goes away. So it's almost kind of like he's trying to conjure this other personality that is conscious at the same time. It's a weird thing.
Yeah.
So that was interesting, and that's a good thing you pointed out there. And so when Thanos is going to like nuke Thor's head for Loki to kind of give up the Power Stone, that's when Loki eventually hands it over.
Yeah.
But Loki ends up getting strangled to death. Yeah, I know.
Would you do that for me, Sean?
I doubt it. But that's when it'd be like, oh yeah, him. I've always wanted to be the older brother. You know,
right? Now's my chance.
Yeah, it's my chance. Yeah, so he breaks Loki's neck, kills him, and he says, like,
sucked.
You know, there's no coming back from this one.
Idris Elba, too.
And, yeah, Idris Elba.
Killed Stringer Bell, dude.
Yeah, that was brutal.
Second time.
Yeah, so it starts off really grim right away, kind of sets a tone for the whole movie. Do you really think Loki's dead, though?
Yeah. I mean, no.
He's a god, so it's can you strangle out a god?
I mean, he's like in some kind of limbo, you know, wherever gods go to hang out, but I don't think he's dead.
So what's interesting is
I don't think anybody that gets killed in this movie truly dies, you know?
Well,
I mean, Superman got killed in the comics. He came back.
Yeah, you never know. They always have a way to work it out. You know, so after all that happens and before Stringer Bell gets killed, he uses the Bifrost to send the Hulk to Earth, which is interesting that he didn't send anybody else. He just sent Hulk.
This Hulk's a badass.
Yeah, well, and he left Thor there, so they kind of abandoned Thor.
Yeah.
And so Thanos gets what he wants, kind of abandons Thor, who's all chewed up in this place, and then it kind of explodes. So that kind of starts us off right there. And it transitions to where Hulk crash lands into the Sanctorium in New York City, where Dr. Stephen Strange and Wong are kind of chilling out. So that's when they first meet another Avenger. And it was a kind of a funny scene, seeing that kind of come in. So it already quickly is just starting to kind of pair up these people.
I mean, it's stuff, and I like how stuff's just taken off, you know, right away. There's not like a lot of talking and setup.
Yeah, they just jump right into it.
It's like Bruce, like this guy is, he's no joke.
Now, remind me, I don't believe that there was this intro title at all in this movie.
No.
Am I right? Am I remembering that?
No credits, right?
It did the little Marvel bit in the beginning, and it had the.
It even had like a distress signal from Asgard. You could hear it like in the opening, whatever the Marvel emblem. But you're right. It was kind of interesting, right? Yeah,
because the only thing that was unique is it said Marvel Studios, and in the IO and Studios morphed into like a 10 to kind of highlight like 10 years. You know, the Marvel Studios.
Right.
But other than that, there's no Avengers Infinity War. There's no thing there are cuts, and all of a sudden the title comes up. So that was one of the first things I noticed different about this movie compared to the other ones, to where they usually kind of have the trumpets come in with their theme song, and it says Avengers.
Fanfare.
Yeah. The confetti and everything. So
sure.
Back to the basic plot. So Bruce Banner winds up with Stephen Strange and Wong and tells him this whole bit and story about the stone and Thanos and all these kinds of things like that. And they need to go get Tony Stark, who's kind of strolling around a park. Trying to do this off of memory here, so help me out if I miss it.
He's with Pepper.
Yeah, he's with Pepper. They're having conversations about kids.
A kid, yeah. I guess he's gonna get married to her. And then, Hulk comes out all looking like shit, like a homeless Hulk.
Yeah, he comes out, because he does that little ring, the time ring, the Doctor Strange ring.
Yeah,
of the
yeah.
sling ring, and he kind of shows up in the park and he's like, "Hey, come with me," to Tony Stark. Well, I thought some of the funniest humor was between
Doctor Strange is a badass.
He is. I do like the dialogue though between Tony Stark and Doctor Strange, where he's kind of like teasing them that they're wizards and all this kind of stuff, which was great. So now Tony Stark's kind of in the mix, and that's when one of the alien dudes starts showing up to New York in that big spaceship, the big circle spaceship.
That was cool.
Yeah, so while that's happening, Peter Parker's on his way to school in a bus, sees it coming over, jumps out of the bus, takes off. Everybody starts kind of coming together. So big fights going on and things like that. It kind of starts moving along to where Tony Stark and Spider-Man are on the ship. And then we kind of also get some time to catch up with Wanda Maximoff and Vision, who are kind of chilling out in Scotland.
Right. Well, before that too, we learned that Strange has one of the stones.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Well,
so
we knew that all along.
Yeah. So I didn't.
Oh, so and, yeah,
this we is.
Well, they made that in Doctor Strange. That's the gem. They mentioned it in that.
Okay.
But if you don't you don't think about it that way. It's when I first saw that movie, I didn't put two and two together on that.
Okay.
I don't know why, but
so
and then the plot just kind of comes along to where you've got those people going in that direction. You've got Maximoff, like I said, like Wanda's there with Vision, and they get attacked in Scotland, and then somewhere out of the blue, that's when Steve Rogers shows up with
Black
couple
Widow.
of his other Black Widow and a couple of his other
Falcon.
folks. Falcon fights off these guys, and they split, which I thought was really convenient. Like, oh, how'd they find them?
Yeah. Well, I mean, because they were kind of living there. They kind of chastised them later and says they're supposed to keep in touch, and they just find them, which is like, okay, Scotland's pretty remote. I mean, place to go from America. So
yeah, I don't quite. I must have missed something because it was just really convenient because they're out just having a midnight stroll. Then Vision gets attacked, by Thanos' guys, and next thing you know, Captain America to the rescue, who's got his beard. He doesn't have his cowl. He's a little bit more, I don't know, modern, I guess, not as old timey Steve Rogers.
He's with it now.
Yeah, he's got it going on.
Hip.
Yeah, he. But they do mention something about them being exiled when they kind of meet up with War Machine, because since the last Captain America, they haven't really been in America. So he's more like Captain Europe at this point.
Yeah, right. Captain Scotland.
Yeah. So they start kind of really just instantly showing people on the defensive, and those attacks are happening with Thanos' guys, which I thought were pretty cool way to introduce some new villains that you don't really need to care about, but they're very powerful and they look pretty cool.
Yeah, they do.
Don't really explain their power or anything. You just go along with it, which I think is great. And then the transition to when they introduced the Guardians of the Galaxy, I thought was pretty clever with the music and the themes.
Yeah.
What I mentioned earlier is when they transitioned to like locations, they put the big letters across the screen of what the locations
where they're at. Which is like going back to something we talked about earlier, Den of Thieves. It does that like the whole movie. It's like Montebello, Lawndale. You're like, who gives a shit? Like, it's just like unneeded. But
it's like a Bond movie,
Yeah, it's just all these like shithole like suburbs of L.A. But in this case, it's like okay,
places you never heard, all kinds of places I've never heard,
and then space. Like when they first show the Guardians of the Galaxy, it's like space. It's like, yeah, really? Like,
it just says space. It's got some got their music and everything.
And then they're going to nowhere, and it's like, nowhere with a K.
Yeah, okay. But they did a great job, like bringing that vibe of the Guardians movies into this one.
Yeah,
because all those guys are just clowns, and
you kind of need it. And I mean, like Batista's, what's his character? He's so funny.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah. That's like his second calling right there.
It is Drax.
Yeah.
So we kind of find that the Guardians respond to this distress signal from an Asgardian ship, And they go there and they find everything blown to bits, but they see Thor floating out in the sky. So they pick him up, and that leads to some more hilarity between him and Peter Quill, which you can actually watch on YouTube, like behind the scenes, and them kind of the manlyhood,
Yeah, that was
the
funny.
challenges between them, and obviously Space Lord's all threatened because he's all muscly, and I don't know. I thought it was pretty funny. It was funny. Some pretty good scenes.
It's like you kind of needed that Guardians of the Galaxy stuff to be brought in, because this is a pretty heavy movie, like in terms of just like the carnage and everything that's going on.
Yeah,
people getting killed left and right. So you definitely need that to balance it out, and they did a good job, bringing that in.
Yeah. So here we are, like 30 or so minutes into it, and we've almost got everybody on screen that's going to kind of be here for the rest of the movie, almost.
Yeah.
There was moments where, Tony Stark was going to call Captain America on that cell phone that he gave him at the end of Civil War.
Flip phone.
The flip phone, yeah. But when he got attacked, he dropped it, and that's where, was it Bruce Banner picked it up, I think?
Yeah.
And so he's the one who probably made the call that may have connected it. I don't know.
Yeah.
But how they would have found him, who knows? But anyways.
We're nitpicking here.
Yeah, exactly. So after we kind of get this whole Thor thing, Thor says, like, I need to go and get a new hammer or a new weapon, so I need to go to this place to go and get this. So obviously Rocket and a little hipster Groot, where he's all emo, he's all like some emo teenager Groot.
Right.
They want to go with Thor, so they go with Thor and split up. So instantly,
it's funny
you get a group
how
that comes together and they split.
Thor understands what Groot's freaking saying.
Yeah, he mentioned it was like some like extracurricular class he took as a child.
Yeah, it's like Han and Chewie,
Yeah, very similar.
Yeah.
And so Thor's off to try and go get a new hammer, and the Guardians are going off to try to I don't know what the hell it is, go get the Reality Stone, out nowhere, where they find Thanos at.
Right.
And that's where Thanos kidnaps Gamora, and she eventually has to reveal the location of the Soul Stone.
And that's his stepdaughter. That's his stepdaughter, apparently. And there's a pretty crazy flashback where they show,
it was brutal, wasn't it? That flashback?
Yeah, man, because they're just like laying out like a shitload of people.
Yeah, so I thought it was
kind of very creepy.
It is, because it's not like most Marvel movies to show like that much, and it's like mass murder, basically.
It's always cartoonish violence,
Yeah, this is pretty serious, and so there's a lot of kids in the theater, because I went to a 12:10 matinee. Yeah. It was a packed house.
Well, they're traumatized for life.
Yeah, there's a lot of dark stuff going on, and that was a pretty dark scene where he gives this little girl a weapon and has her look away, and they just wipe out half the population right behind her back.
Yeah.
And so, but it shows you where Thanos' mind is at. So that's where eventually Thanos finds out where the Soul Stone's at. He's going to Vormir with Gamora, and they run into a surprise character, which I did not see coming, where Red Skull's hanging out.
Yeah.
You hear the voice, and I'm going, who the hell is that?
You're like, Mr. Anderson.
Agent Smith, or
Mr. Anderson.
Yeah, Mr. Anderson.
Hugo Weaving.
Yeah, he's hanging out there. So, and he's
apparently he got the stone too, and it banished him to that land. I don't know what he's eating on that island, because there ain't nothing there. But
yeah, how you staying alive, buddy?
Yeah, eating roots and moss, or what's going on?
Yeah, I don't know. It works for the story.
The island looks similar to Sauron.
Yeah, exactly.
Looks a little bit like something out of Lord of the Rings,
Now you're thinking like I do, though. You want to know like the daily life type of stuff. Like,
right.
What are you wiping your ass with out there?
Where's he shit?
Yeah, exactly. You see
off that cliff or what?
Yeah, it doesn't. So let's imagine he's just hanging out on Mars.
I want to know.
So Red Skull's chilling. He's the keeper of the Soul Stone, and he basically tells Thanos that it can only be retrieved by sacrificing someone he loves. So Thanos tosses Gamora to her death, grants him the Soul Stone, so she's dead. So let's just pause it right there, because that's like the first character death, other than ones we get in the beginning with Loki and with Stringer Bell. So So there's 3 main characters there, but I don't believe Gamora's dead.
Well, they showed her dead though.
What I mean is that her soul is now in the Soul Stone.
Ah.
So I'm almost positive from like how comics went and stuff like that. So something you can still possibly resurrect, I believe.
Sure.
So, but that is just something that they'll work out somehow. Interesting, just to kind of note that because there's a lot more death to come. But that's one of the ones that you kind of look at and go, well, who's coming back or who could come back? That's one of the ways that she could come back.
Sure. Okay.
So Nebula escapes captivity, and she's the sister, and she meets with the Guardians on Titan, which is Thanos' destroyed homeworld, and so they put together this plan after Stark and Peter rescue Doctor Strange, and they're all on Titan, and they're trying to put together a plan to fight Thanos, and it almost worked, right? Except what's his head screwed it all up. Peter Quill screwed it all up because he found out that Gamora was gone. And that was an interesting sequence of events on Titan. You remember where they were there fighting with Thanos?
Yeah. Yeah, that was crazy.
Almost had the glove off his hand, and of course you knew it wasn't going to happen.
Well, yeah, but then Quill had to mess it up, muck up the works.
Yeah, it's understandable, though. I get it. But I was surprised that people didn't give him more shit for it.
Yeah.
Nobody even gave him any hell about that.
No, they should have.
Yeah, they should have. So
they should have asked you, so where are you shit?
where do you shit? So they fail in getting that thing off. There's a big fight going on, but then there's probably the most important scene in the movie happens during this time. You remember what that is?
Remind me.
So Doctor Strange is sitting there meditating, looking all weird.
Oh yeah, when he turns into like 100 Doctor Stranges.
No, before that, before the fight. And they go.
He sees into the future.
He sees into the future, and he goes, "What does it look like?"
Yeah,
and he goes, "There's 14 million different outcomes of this, and only one of them results in him losing." And
that's good odds right there.
Yeah, it's like the lotto.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
And that's important because essentially Doctor Strange gives up the Time Stone to Thanos to spare Tony Stark's life, which is something he said he wouldn't do earlier on in the movie. He would say, I would sacrifice either of your guys' lives to prevent Thanos from getting this stone. And then he gives it up in exchange for Thanos to spare Tony Stark, which was an interesting kind of change of events. Yeah. So just earmark that for a little bit later. We'll talk about that as we kind of wrap up the plot here.
Right.
So Thanos gets what he wants and splits, and he's headed for Earth. And meanwhile, everybody's in Wakanda because Steve Rogers runs into Bucky there, and he runs with the Vision and the other Avengers that are with them, and they go to Wakanda because that's where they think they can extract the Mind Stone from Vision without killing him.
Unobtainium.
They're going to go. They're going farming.
That's an Avatar. That's an Avatar.
Yeah, I'm struggling keeping thoughts here together.
Yeah, I keep distracting.
Unobtainium is not helping.
Hey,
Yeah, but what is it? Wakanda does remind me a little bit of the Avatar land.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, whatever it's called. What's it called?
Zamunda?
No, not Zamunda. Yeah.
I don't care. How about that?
All right. Yeah, I don't know. Names are not happening today.
Yeah. Say it.
Now it's going to piss me off. What the hell's the name of the? I'm actually glad I don't know what it's called, but it reminds me of the same. Pandora. That's
Pandora.
It. Yeah, it's named after a popular streaming music service.
Yeah, great.
So anyways, they're over in Zamunda with everybody.
Wakanda.
And yeah, so that's kind of where there's going to be a big battle happening because that's where you see the main fight from the trailers. That's another reason why I hate seeing trailers. I wish I could avoid it.
Yeah.
kind of have to talk about them sometimes, but I really don't like seeing trailers. I love seeing movies blind.
Sure.
It just makes it better, I think.
Yeah.
I don't
Most
know,
trailers
because
these days are showing the whole thing, so it's like, all right.
well, they show key moments, so when you
Yeah.
see that moment about to happen, there's no more excitement or surprise. And so
Right.
everybody saw key moments where Thanos and Steve Rogers are having their little moments, and then a bunch of Avengers are charging in with each other and all kinds of stuff like that. So there's a lot of that kind of goes on that was happening. But that's where there's another big battle that happens here in Wakanda. So we all kind of saw that happening. But there's some great moments or great scenes. And when this group lands in this land, this is the last place that they stay at till the end of the movie. So just to kind of fast forward to wrap this up.
Before we butcher anybody else's name.
Yeah, Thor gets the new Stormbringer, or his new axe, which was pretty awesome. He shows up in the middle of the battle, kicking some ass. And
now let's back up a minute. Like, he got that axe from Tyrion Lannister.
Yeah,
this Peter Dinklage. Peter Dinklage got his comeuppance finally.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, he's a big dude in this one.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. It's like they go to the place of dwarves, of course. And what do you know? Dwarves are making stuff underground, or whatever. Has that impression,
right?
But that's where Thanos' glove was made. Same place where Thor's hammer was made. So now Thor needs him to make him a new weapon, and that's where he has him make his axe.
Right.
And so he gets that in splits. Yeah, sorry, I kind of passed that whole section there.
It's fine.
There's a lot of them in this one.
Yeah.
And so once everybody kind of fights off the attack on Wakanda, that's when Thanos kind of shows up, and everyone's like, "Oh shit!" And he is.
Yeah.
You just see how powerful he is at this point.
He's just messing people up.
Yeah, he's tuning everybody up. Nobody can hurt him, and that's where Wanda has to destroy the gem in Vision's head so that he doesn't get it. So that's probably the most emotional scene in the whole movie. Yeah, where she nukes the thing in his head and kills him, and the gem's gone. But Thanos has the time gem and just rewinds the clock and then just rips it out of his head again. So he had to die twice.
Yeah.
So that was pretty brutal, and he gets everything and then kind of snaps his fingers and takes off. And you don't really get it right away, like what he did, which I thought was really clever with how they did it. Because they've been foreshadowing it the whole time, but when he snaps his fingers, he literally wipes out half the population at random.
Yeah.
And the first person you see is Bucky, who kind of like, Steve, and he fizzles away, and they turn to ashes, and the next thing you know, people just continue to start dying and dying and dying. You start seeing
they turned into the stuff that everyone turned into the stuff that Michael Clark Duncan blew out of his mouth in the Green Mile.
Yeah, that's where I saw that stuff.
That's pretty much just what they turned into.
Help you, boss.
I think they had some extra of that stuff laying around, so they're like, "Yeah, let's use this."
Yeah. So that's definitely
trying to take it back.
Yeah, that is interesting. So a lot of people. So who dies? Let's see if we can recap. Black Panther's dead. You've got Steve Rogers lives. Spider-Man dies, which was kind of sad because he was all crying towards Tony.
Yeah.
Bruce Banner lives. Star-Lord, Groot, they die. A whole bunch of them die. I mean, the list goes on. Bucky's dead. Yeah. There's a lot of people that are dead, and they all just kind of disappear. So it only leaves like the core ones alive, and this is the CGI scene I was talking about. It's like at the end where they're all kind of standing there on Wakanda. And the Hulk is in like the large Iron Man outfit, and it looks like his head's floating there. It looks so terrible.
Yeah. Group photo.
Does.
It's like
like the group photo looking moment.
Yeah.
It looked terrible.
Well, what I didn't like was like how they just wrote off like Ant-Man and Archer. Is that who it is? They're like, oh yeah, the Jeremy Renner's character.
Yeah,
They're like, oh yeah, they had to move away because they wanted to protect their family.
Ant-Man's not there.
Yeah, they're like, oh, they moved away because they had to help their family. Like, kind of the hype going into this movie was I thought it would just have a shitload of characters in it. It didn't have as many as I thought. I'm
not as many that are on the credits for.
I'm not complaining. I'm just like,
yeah.
I mean, they kind of hyped the movie up as like everybody's going to be in this one, and it's like, all right, but and Hulk is still back to that guy. Like, he didn't do shit.
No, he was, yeah.
I mean, he was like in that Sigourney Weaver thing from Aliens, but it's like, other than that, he didn't do a whole lot.
Yeah, he was a big bummer. I mean, I think Thor was pretty cool in this movie. The Guardians cast was pretty cool.
Thor
Iron
was
Man
pretty much
was
like
cool.
the most powerful one. It's like,
yeah, he's a badass in this one.
MVP of the movie was Thor.
Spider-Man had his new outfit. That was pretty cool.
That was cool.
So he got enough moments. And I liked his little reference. Like, you see that really old movie, Aliens? You know,
blow him out of the airlock.
Yeah, blow him out of the airlock.
Yeah,
that was clever.
That was good.
Yeah. So a couple other things that I think that so they didn't really address the absence of a couple of those folks, and I think that we'll get that when we see like Ant-Man and the Wasp later this year. Hawkeye, I think. I don't know what's going on, if it was a scheduling thing, but he mentioned something when he was interviewed that he's doing something in parallel that's just as important. So I don't really know what that means. But there was foreshadowing that because they did introduce his family and stuff in the last one.
Right.
So there's something going on there. Let's see, what else that kind of... It feels like the movie takes place over the course of like 24 hours. I don't know.
It's very condensed. Like, it's a lot happening.
It's hard to get your head around
that. Of time. Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, that's good. Like, just editing in general, it's like, you know, instead of dragging the thing out, you're really just, it's like, okay, it's happening in a day, and then it's like, you know, and then talk about the teaser at the end for a minute. You want to talk about that?
Sure. Go ahead and describe it.
End of it, we have like Nick Fury and that other girl driving around. And all of a sudden, a car like kind of, you know, goes at an angle in front of him. He stops and they get out and they look in the car. There's nobody there. And then that's when everyone starts disappearing.
Basically, turns into the leftovers.
Turns into it's like the leftovers now. The girl turns into the thing from Michael Clark Duncan in Green Mile. And then he frantically sends a text, and he starts disappearing too. And he drops the phone. It wasn't
a text.
Okay, it was a. Help me out. It was
a pager.
Okay, it's a pager. He has a sidekick or whatever. So he has this little pager, and what is he sending now? He sends like it shows a little emblem.
Yeah, you know what it is?
What is that?
So it's Captain Marvel. So she is supposed to be the most powerful out of the bunch.
And who's playing Captain Marvel?
Brie Larson's playing her. I think
Captain
the last
Marvel.
Yeah, she. I think the last movie I saw her on was in Kong with Tom Hiddleston. Have you seen Kong?
Oh yeah,
You remember the blonde girl that was in that?
Oh okay,
that's her.
Okay.
And yeah, I don't know much about her at all. So I just
Captain Marvel was a dude.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
I mean,
yeah. Okay.
Is this like the Marvel Wonder Woman or?
It's basically yes. It's you're gonna draw a lot of connections between her and Captain America, obviously, but you'll recognize. You're like, oh yeah, okay.
Carol Susan Jane Danvers.
Yeah. So she's got superhuman strength, speed, stamina, durability.
Terrible.
So
name.
She has her own movie that comes out 2 months before Avengers 4, which is next year. So the same space that we had with Black Panther to Infinity War, we're going to get with Captain Marvel and Avengers 4. But that movie takes place during the 90s. So it's interesting that there's this pager from the 90s that kind of pages her for help. And why did Nick Fury never use it before once the leftovers happened?
That's saving it for a rainy day.
Yeah, I think that they just may have not been necessary.
The leftovers / Green Mile stuff.
But I know that she can do stuff with time travel.
Okay.
So what where I think the whole story is going to go is a couple of different directions, because half the Avengers and half the population are gone. And Thanos is just kind of sitting there in his little meadow in his little house, all like proud of himself for saving mankind.
Right.
And he's an interesting villain because you do empathize a little bit with, his logic. Like, what he's trying to accomplish. It's just, if you had that power, why don't you just double the resources or something? Why do you have to kill everybody?
It's like a purple Hitler.
Yeah, that's an understatement. Yeah, absolutely. So it was a little fast. I mean, this is really a Thanos movie. He had a lot of screen time in this one, which I appreciate. Because
makes you want to kind of read up on the backstory a little bit.
Yeah, you don't really give that to villains. So it was kind of cool to see that. But what I think is going to happen is because Doctor Strange gave up the time gem, knowing that is the only path that leads to their defeating Thanos, and he would not have given it up if he knew that, because he would have sacrificed Iron Man's life. Right. And with that being said, he was the only one that seemed totally cool with being eliminated. So when everyone turns into the green mile dust, he's the only one who was kind of like, yeah, this is, we're now in the end game. He kind of knows. So he knows what's going on. And he didn't say anything to anybody, but he was able to look into the future and see how it plays out. So now we have to speculate, how does it play out? What I think might happen is something will go back in time where the Avengers somehow partner up with Captain Marvel and either go back in time before the events of the first Avengers. And
so you want to know about Captain Marvel?
Okay.
So they keep talking to her about it. Her name's Carol Danvers. That's a terrible freaking name.
Yeah,
Carol Danvers possesses superhuman strength, endurance, stamina, flight, physical durability. She can tap into the energy of a white hole, allowing full control and manipulation of stellar energies, and therefore control over heat, the electromagnetic spectrum, and gravity. Light speed travel. Here we go. Light speed travel and the ability to survive in the vacuum of space are also possible. These are called binary powers.
Yeah, she's a badass. So
she can fly at roughly 6 times the speed of sound. Jeez.
Yeah, so she's the most powerful in like the Marvel universe, as far as I know.
All right.
And that's why I think the original Avengers, which are the ones that conveniently all lived, are going to get together. I think that Hawkeye is going to come back in the mix because his wife has probably vanished, and that brings him out of wherever the hell he's at.
No longer pussy.
And then he comes back in the fold.
Okay.
And so they meet up with Carol Danvers, or damn it,
Carol Danvers.
Yeah, they meet up with
Carol
Captain Marvel, and I think they're going to go back in time, probably before the events of the first Avengers movie, and stop this whole invasion and all that stuff. Like defeat Thanos at a different point in time to prevent these events from happening now. Something like that. I think time travel is going to come into play.
It's going to have to, because it's like all these cool people died.
Well, it does. Another initial thought walking out of the theater, especially because the movie ends like super depressing to where half everybody's dead, and the dude's sitting in the field like, yep, I did that. And it's like,
the last like 10 minutes of the movie, everyone was completely quiet. And then someone opens like a soda can. I'm like, God damn you. I was just like, God damn you.
I know.
You know what I mean?
It's having the empathy. Our fictional characters are tired.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't getting all teared up or anything, but I'm like, damn you.
Come on.
Like, the movie's almost over. You don't need to open a soda.
Yeah.
You know? And why are you bringing soda into a movie theater?
They save money.
I guess.
Hey, we used to sneak in sodas when we were kids. We filled those tubs at AM/PM.
Bags of popcorn.
Yeah.
And those brown lunch bags. And we'd wear like a big jacket. It's like June or July, and we're wearing some big jacket. And
our mother's
like, no, put more in. And it's like, all right, but Is this illegal, Mom, or what's?
At that time, you didn't understand the concept of money or poverty, so you're kind of like,
yeah.
Why are we sneaking in our own shit? Can't we just buy it there like everybody else?
Right.
Be quiet.
Well, you want to spend $10?
Yeah, I know. So you gotta like sneak in your drinks. You had like a special beach purse that's like filled with all your liquids and stuff. But anyways, what the hell was I talking about? So we're talking about
sneaking in popcorn.
No, before sneaking in popcorn.
Oh, Thanos just looking over.
Yeah, the last 10 minutes.
How
so
depressing it was.
I think that he said that he gave up everything because there was some dialogue lines that said like, "What are the sacrifices and stuff?" And he said, and it kind of shows him reflecting on like having to kill Gamora. And he says everything, and I think that he's going to regret what he did.
Oh, yeah.
He might rewind the clock to try to bring her back or something along those lines. So there's a possibility I could see him having some type of
villain with a
conscience.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he definitely did have a lot of those elements to it, you know. He seemed like a bad dude, but he seemed like he was confident that he was doing the right thing, which is
he's not
an interesting villain. Yeah, correct. I don't know. Any other takeaways that you could think of?
No, just like the Hulk. I was looking at my notes here.
Yeah, the Hulk. We got that established.
This is what I wrote down. Like, Hulk, where were you?
Oh.
Where was everyone?
Hello.
Hawkeye and Ant-Man. And then I wrote Quill fucks it up. And then I wrote Peter Dinklage, comeuppance.
Oh, wait. Comeuppance. How do you spell that?
COMEUPPANCE.
Oh, comeuppance.
Comeuppance. Right. So those are just my notes when I got home. Sometimes I just write down ideas in a couple words, and I pretty much know what I'm talking about. But
yeah,
no, I really did enjoy it. It's just going to be like, and the next one's coming out next year, right?
Yeah, same time, 2019.
Yeah, so I'm there. It's like I had a really good time watching this. I will probably go see it again before it's out of theaters. I usually don't like going to see movies on the opening weekends, but I was in a pretty a big enough theater to where I had my space, which is a big thing to me when I go see the movies. I need my space.
What are you, man spreading the whole time?
Oh yeah, I'm all over the place. I got my popcorn, my soda.
I'm gonna make a hypotenuse with my legs.
Yeah, so no, but really glad I got to see this.
All right, cool. All right. Well, again, I enjoyed it. I want to see it again when I can pay more attention, maybe in a smaller theater. Not as many people, not as many kids.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun, but yeah, we'll see. We'll take it from there. But I think that'll do it for us talking about Avengers Infinity War. What did you guys think? Would love to kind of hear your feedback and love to hear some of your discussion on the ending and what's next. After this episode airs, we'll open up a little group chat. So if you hadn't had the chance, head over to the Harsch Review, a Facebook group. Join in the discussion. Love to see what you guys' thoughts and feelings are. Visit us on all the different social platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We're all over there. But anyways, had a lot of fun doing this one. We normally don't do current contemporary movies, but spent a lot of time watching the Marvel stuff lately. Enjoyed it. So if you'd like to hear more things like this, let us know if you enjoyed it. Outside of that, I'm going to go take some more NyQuil, and I have to go to sleep soon because I'm flying to Tennessee in like 6 hours. So, woo!
Yeah.
Alrighty.
All right.
That'll do it for me. My name is Sean.
And I'm Willem Neeson.
Comeuppance.
Gerald Butler.
Jerry Butler, see? All right, take it easy.
Bye.